Hello and welcome back to the Doctor Who Marathon. I'm your host McEdam, and today we're going to be talking about Vengeance on Varos, written by Philip Martin and is directed by Ron Jones. This is the second story in season 22, and it is a two-part long, 45 minutes episodes, and this is easily, by far, my favourite Sixth Doctor story. It's got everything you want. You've got the bombastic Doctor, but he's a lot more calmer than his two previous incarnations. Him and Perry work very well in this story, in my opinion. We've got a great story with commentary on just how life works at the current state, the current moment. And we've also have a fantastic, memorable villain. Because this is the first story that introduces Syl, a politician-like character from the... I can't remember the corporation he's from, but anyway, he's basically a greedy little shit. And he's played by Nabil Schnabel. I'm probably pronouncing his name wrong. Nabil Shaban. There you go. Nabil Shaban. Yeah, sorry, I'm terrible with names. But anyway, what's really important to note is that he is he's handicapped. He's got this condition. I can't remember what the condition's named, but because of his condition, he's very short and his body is kind of distorted in a way, and that hasn't really gotten to him at all. He actually tried to write for the series. He was such a huge fan of Doctor Who, he actually sent some scripts to the BBC when he was a kid during the Fourth Doctor era. However, they constantly turned him down, mainly because, I don't know. But what's also interesting to note is when he became an actor, he actually offered himself for the role of the Doctor. How cool would that be? But the BBC never took him on. I believe this is when Tom Baker left. But yeah, and many years later he would actually get his turn to play a villain in the role, in the role of Syl. And a lot of people might be a bit offended by it, because you put a handy-capable character and you put him as a villain and make him a monster, an alien. But I think Syl, his character, is so enjoyable, and Shaban does a fantastic job that you kind of forget all this. And Shaban, sorry, he's actually part of a organisation to get more hand-capable actors working. So that's really cool. Well done to him. And he's just a great actor. He's just a phenomenal actor. So yeah. So let's get into Vengeance on Varos. The story takes place on Varos, and we get introduced to these two characters to begin with. Eden and Arkan, I believe their names are. And they surprisingly don't interact with any other character in the story, not even the Doctor and Perry, as we get to see the citizens of this culture as they basically sit around in their house voting. As we also get introduced to the governor. I don't think he's actually named in the story, and he's like the Prime Minister of Varos. And Syl has basically asked that they bring the price down for their precious mineral. But the governor is like, we're basically giving it you for free now, and you want us to lower the price? That's absurd. And so we get to see this culture in which this governor character, he sits in a chair and puts himself locked in, and the people get to vote whether to keep him or to send him to a disintegration thing, which means that he's got a very unlikely chance to survive. It gives him a huge amount of pain and makes him more reasonable to his people's demands. And so he's trying to tell everybody, it's like, right, should we lower the price for Syl, or should we fight for a better world? Now this person, this governor, he's been in this situation before and he's let the people down. So when he gets into the chair, the votes were against him and he goes through a serious amount of pain, but survives. And it's been described that he's done this 3 times now and nobody has survived a 4th, which is a bit incredible. And it's just a great way of setting up this world. This is a world where basically you've got higher class and lower class, but the higher class are suffering from the demands of the lower class. And we also get to see what these people get for entertainment, as the governor has this film crew that films people when they're getting tortured. So like when people break the law or become rebels to this to Syl's company who buys this material off them, they get sentenced basically to either torture or death. And basically it revolves around like reality TV, as we see people enjoying others suffer, especially those who break the law. And they basically use this as a kind of fear weapon to keep people on the straight and narrow. Now back to the Doctor and Perry. They are originally travelling around the cosmic galaxy, and Perry mentions a few oddities that the 6th Doctor's regeneration is still having some faults. There's a great line in which she mentions that the 6th Doctor burnt her breakfast, and the Doctor's like, well, I can't be perfect. And then she's like, yeah, but if you recall, I was supposed to have a cold breakfast. And that bit was really funny. And I think what really works here is the 6th Doctor still gets angry. He still gets mad at Perry when she messes up. But he's quickly to denote this and basically change the subject. And it comes off more as if he's having these small outbursts of anger, but he's trying to control himself. He's trying his best, as we see something happen with the TARDIS, which gets it stuck in the vacuum of space. We get some really fun lines in which the Doctor's feeling very down for himself, really depressed, and it's like, we're going to be stuck in the TARDIS forever. And then he's like, it's okay for you, Perry. You'll soon get old and die. But for me, I'll have to live out all my regenerations, all my lives in eternal agony. Which is just, I mean, yeah, the way he speaks to Perry is a bit harsh. But you can kind of see his point of view, that it's kind of like, at least for you, it's going to be quicker than for me. I've got to do this 100 times over. And Perry, showing why she's such a great companion, kind of pushes him to find a solution as she hands him the TARDIS manual. And the Doctor originally is dismissive of this idea, but he gives it a read, and then something clicks as a bit of energy has been diverted into the TARDIS console, and so the Doctor gets up in his action and gives the book to Perry, and he's like, don't stress, Perry, don't worry, everything will be okay. And I love that little moment where he goes up to her and he's like, don't panic after everything. And you can see Perry's face, she's like, oh God, I've got to put up with this. But the Doctor uses the TARDIS, uses the manual to basically temporarily fix the TARDIS. But they need a particular material which is only found on one planet, Varos. And so the Doctor decides to go there, but he says it's a risk because if they land before their mining era, then they could be stuck on Varos, and some of the time periods are very unpleasant. Perry's like, we've got to take the risk. So they go to Varos, where one of the rebels is about to be executed, to try and get some favour from the people. The governor organises a death sentence for one of the biggest rebels. And I really like the scene in which the governor comes to this decision, as we see him weak and wary against Syl. Syl tries to basically bargain again to lower the price, but the governor is way too weak to even think. And one of his guards, just an average person, just to show you how messed up this world, one of the characters, an unnamed character who's supposed to be just like doing his job, normal day routine. I think he was like a camera operator or something, a camera editor or something. And he suggests to the governor that they sentence one of the rebels to death in a way of letting a light gun charge up until it bursts out with light. And the way they describe how it might get figures and it might not, is actually kind of really disturbing, as this character, which is soon to be revealed as Syl's like henchman, suggests that this idea won't sell because the death will be too quick. And then they have a little discussion on whether it'll be entertaining or not, and one of them suggests that it's about the build up, the tension up to the uncertainty of when the beam will strike. We can get at least 10 minutes of entertainment from this, and they're like, it's worth a try. So they basically treat death as just a usual thing that that people do on this planet, and it's kind of messed up. But anyway, whilst the person is getting sentenced to death, one of the guards has a anti-hallucinogenic helmet on, but he thinks it's faulty as he notices the TARDIS. He shoots it to no effect and then just acts like it doesn't exist. And the Doctor and Perry are like, what the hell was that all about? And the Doctor and Perry then go out to visit him, and we get a great scene in which the Doctor pretends he's like a technician, and when the guy is like, he's really confused, he's like, what the hell is going on? So just before he takes the helmet off, the Doctor and Perry just basically at him, and the Doctor and Perry help this prisoner escape, saving him from certain death, and they run around the base. We also get a scene in which, before we get to see the character basically sentenced to death, his wife, I believe it is, or his girlfriend, gets told that that his husband or boyfriend's going to die, and she recognizes the guard and is like, you were his friend once, please let me escape. And then later on, when we see the Doctor and Perry and this prisoner escaping, you can see a lady hand, it's like this way, to try and escape from the guards. Now Syl and the governor can see this, and they believe that they are some sort of spies from a rival organisation that are trying to either steal it, or from Syl's point of view, he thinks that he might be betrayed, that somebody else might be buying the mineral off them. And so the governor and Syl start to like trust each other less and less, and Syl comes up with some sort of plan. Now let's talk about Syl, because he's a very great character. He's basically the representation of like a greedy politician who only cares about profit rather than human lives. And in fact, he kind of gets enjoyment from the lower class getting tortured. In fact, when we see the scene in which this character's been sentenced to death, Sill's just there enjoying himself. And he's just a very weird character. He's this slimy, hideous looking thing. And he's got these two really muscular bodyguards, like with wearing like gimpy gladiators costumes, and one of them like squirts him with like water as he gets moisturized, which kind of reminds me a lot of Cassandra from New Who. So maybe this was the inspiration for that, who knows. But yeah, Sill is basically the story's representation on the high class, greedy politicians who eat themselves to death and does no real work, though he does try and organise getting the material for a much cheaper price. And so we get a dilemma here as the governor. He's a real nice guy in reality, but he lives in a world where he has to be kind of ruthless. Otherwise, he will die. He's either going to have to basically step up and push himself to find a solution, or he'll get sentenced to death and somebody else will have to take his place when he dies, and the cycle will continue, basically revealing that this system just does not work. And what's really great about this story is that it's a huge commentary of real life, as back when this came out, a lot of politicians, they do anything wrong and they can lose their jobs. If any sort of controversy occurs, they could be sacked or fired, and people just watch television for the amusement of, I believe the term is Freudenschneider, where it's when you enjoy watching somebody having pain. So basically it's like a more brutal version of You've Been Framed. That's a great way of putting at it. But the story actually still holds up today as Big Brother, I'm a Celebrity. We are a viewing audience that likes to watch people get tortured. Of course, it's not an exact parallel, as this story basically takes it to the extreme. But it basically says to us, this is what we could be if we don't have passion and kindness and compassion. I said compassion twice. And live in a system where we care about one another. And it's such a great plot. We also get some great scenes in which the Doctor and Perry are in these tunnels, which are known for having hallucinations. And one of them they see is a giant, massive fly, but the Doctor works out what's going on, and they grab each other's hands and they walk past it, and it's revealed that the fly is only actually like a little normal fly, but it was but this effect, this purple light, I believe they call it, sends this signal where it makes small things look absolutely big, and we get a really good moment in that. And soon they get splitting up, and Perry and the rebels get captured, but the Doctor gets caught up in another tunnel in which he starts seeing a desert, and he starts becoming really hot, taking off his colourful jacket, and he starts believing he's thirsty, and so he collapses onto the floor, dying for a drink, dying for some water. And we end part one on just a fantastic cliffhanger on which the Doctor's body is just lying there almost dead as Sill laughs his head off, and the governor is like, right, cut it now. We hear Sill like laughing, and then we get the credits roll. It It would have been, I think, a little bit better if we cut it on when he says, cut. Ding-a-ding, ding-a-ding. That would have been so much better. But the cliffhanger really works. Now let's talk about Ron Jones' directing. As I've stated before in my previous vlogs about him, he's been a very mixed bag. He's very good at doing the mundane stuff, but when he does hard sci-fi stuff, he usually fails. I say usually because this is one of 2 stories he did with Syl, and this is his. And going into this, you might be a little bit worried, as this is Ron Jones again tackling a sci-fi heavy story with the dark tunnels, and I don't know, maybe he's just very good with Colin Baker and Nicola Bryant. But this story looks absolutely gorgeous. It's clearly feels like a television, but I think for the plot that we have, the story feeling like a television story really, really works. And Ron Jones gives this story a huge atmosphere, which I don't think was actually present in the script, though there is a dark, glooming, almost sarcastic reality to this world. Ron Jones actually improves it with some very good scene setups and these sets. These sets are absolutely amazing as well, and it gives you a sense of claustrophobia. And we get a lot of scenes in a tunnel, and we get to see Colin Baker, Sixth Doctor, who's such a massive presence, not in terms of acting style, though he is a massive presence in terms of acting, as he's got this huge bombastic personality, but I mean as an actual figure of a person, and he's got that wonderful, wonderful, you know what I mean, coat. So when he like runs around, he almost like kind of covers up the screen with his presence, and Ron Jones really knows how to take advantage of that. I think it might be because he worked very well with the Sixth Doctor and his stories, and he also knows how to direct Colin Baker in a way where he's still his arrogant self. He's still his arrogant demeanour of the Sixth Doctor. Not really Colin Baker. Colin Baker's a really lovely lad in real life. If you see him in any interviews or met him in like cons and stuff, he's a really nice guy. But anyway, he knows how to direct the character without making him seem like an absolute prick. And I think that's where the struggle comes from, is directing Colin Baker in a way where his dickiness is not that it's not noticeable, but it's not an issue in terms of his character and his demeanour. And you as an audience watch this thinking it's just the Sixth Doctor who's a very unstable character, rather than this is the Doctor being an absolute prat. So yeah, this story I think really works well with his TV interpretation of the Doctor. Not to get off topic, but we will get in audio dramas with Big Finish, because of all these complaints about the Sixth Doctor, Big Finish would attempt to basically calm the Sixth Doctor down, so he's a much more charming and likeable character in terms of his personality, and he would get along with people a lot more quicker. But I think for the TV aspect, I actually don't mind it. I think it really depends on the writer and the director. They've got to really work this character, and I think that's what makes the Sixth Doctor one of my favourite Doctors, is that he's such a hard character to write for. You do him wrong, you make him look like an absolute, just a mean character. When you get him right, then you've got a good story and you've got a really good character that we can sort of relate, that he can get stressed and he's a bit quick to his temper. But you can also see him enjoying life as he still fights monsters and still goes around having a laugh with his friends and stuff. So yeah, really cool. So anyway, back to the story at hand. The Doctor, it's revealed that the Doctor actually faked his death because he basically knew what was going on, so he acted as if he died. And now here we get a very controversial moment, and this is where the debate on the Sixth Doctor lies. This is one of the first big, well, I wouldn't say the first because the entire twin dilemma, but this is another example of the different ideas between Eric Saward, the script editor, and John Nathan Turner, as we get a scene in which the Doctor wakes up before his body gets sent to an acid bath, and his two guards basically not realising that he's back alive, and one of them accidentally falls into this acid bath, basically burning up and dying, whilst this other one tries to capture the Doctor, and the Doctor's basically holding something to try and stop him, and this other character, the character in the acid bath, with his burnt, decrepit hand, picks up the guy by his trousers and pulls him, trying to pull himself up from the acid bath, accidentally pulling the other guard into the acid bath. And the Doctor kind of just makes a quip, and he's like, "Don't mind if I don't join you," and walks off with his jacket around his arms. Now, this is a good example of the split not really working, and despite me really liking this story and specifically liking the Sixth Doctor, this is one scene that I personally don't like, and you can see where the trouble relies, as John Nathan Turner wanted a much more unstable Doctor, but Eric Saward wants a kind of James Bond giving quips after he kills a baddie and stuff, and here it just doesn't really work. And the scenery of it, like I said, I really like the scenery of this, but this one scene really feels pantomime-y, and something about it just doesn't work. But I will say, it's only one scene. If you can't get over that one scene, then yeah, this story could be considered pants, but it's just one scene. If you can get over that one scene, I highly recommend this story. So anyway, the Doctor saves the guards as Perry gets sentenced to this strange process where she either gets turned into a bird or a reptile, depending on her personality. I didn't quite understand it. We get a great scene in which the Doctor goes through these tunnels again, and they have the green light. We get a great moment in which everybody kind of feels really happy and glad, and something like kind of takes over their brains, and they see like phantoms of themselves tempting them to come closer. And we have a really iconic shot, which is actually on the cover. The Fifth Doctor putting his hand up, is like, "No, you are an illusion! You are phantoms of the mind! Go!" And then they disappear, and when the illusion dissipates, they realise that there's this big pit with lava and stuff, and if the Doctor and these characters fell into that, obviously they would die. And so they tried to escape, only for them to get captured, and the Doctor tells the Governor that the mineral that Syl wants is actually very valuable, and that a lot of people would absolutely love to have this stuff. And so the Governor comes up with this plan of sentencing the two men to old-fashioned hanging execution, whilst giving the two ladies to this character, Gilliam, who's a research scientist, who's going to put them through this process where they either turn into a bird or a reptile, depending on their personality traits, or whether what their fears are. It's described in the story, and it's described very well. It's just I'm not doing it a very good justice. And we get a great scene in which the doctor is getting sentenced to death, and they ask him, any last words? He's like, just one. Who is he? He is Sil. He is part of the corporation that's buying our materials. And like, that's okay. Fair enough. No, that's all. I'll accept my death. Goodbye. And then they take him up to the hangar by taking the girls off, and you can see the Sixth Doctor basically looking at Perry, and he tries to escape, but he kind of stops himself going too far as he comes up with this plan. And the Doctor and this rebel guy, they go up to basically have the noose over their heads, and just before they sentence off, the Doctor does this magnificent speech to the governor in which the material that they are after is very high, and that the citizens are very low respected, and they could get so much more for what Sil is given. But a fight breaks out between the governor's men and Sil's men, as Sil just wants the Doctor dead because he believes he's some sort of conspirator for a rival corporation to try and mess up Sil's business. And so a fight breaks out. However, one of Sil's men actually pulls the lever to let the hanging begin, but the rope actually isn't tied up onto the top of the roof, and so the rope just falls off, meaning that the Doctor and his character survive. And the Doctor's like, thank you. I kind of knew it was a trick because I noticed the cameras weren't on. And so basically the governor is like, okay, I'll believe you, Doctor. I'll come into your, I'll talk to you and I'll reason with you. And the Doctor's like, not until Perry and the other girl are safe. And so they go up to their headquarters, and Gilliam basically doesn't want to give up his research, and so the Doctor and this character then go on like a rescue mission as they distract the guards and take their guns and take them to this laboratory where we see Perry almost turn into a bird. Again, it's on the cover. Which is some really great makeup, but I'm ashamed that nothing really much comes from it as we start seeing her transform. But as soon as the Doctor interrupts the process, they quickly revert back to normal. I think with that makeup, I think I would have liked to have seen at least a little bit of it, a little bit more of it in terms of directing and storytelling. And so the Doctor then, with the saving of Perry and this character, then head back to the main room after being chased around by some of the guards. One of them being the scientists, and the Doctor goes in through this room where these ivy, a point coming out from the ceiling, and one touch would kill anybody. And so the Doctor uses that to his advantage as he ties up a string and lets it loose when people get near and kills them automatically. And the Doctor runs to the base. And we also get a scene in which Perry is basically sent up with the governor as Sil basically takes command because the governor has basically washed up his finish. He's at the last of his political stance, and Sil thinks he can take advantage of that. So, and to seeing the governor working with the Doctor and Perry might make the people of Varos distrust him. We get a really great intense scene in which the Doctor and the governor, not the Doctor, Perry and the governor are talking about how Varos life works and the system, and he explains that basically the idea is that somebody whose very life is on the line would find the best solution to try and get he'll do his absolute best to get a solution. Well, at least that's the theory. And they have a great conversation, and there's a bit where the governor starts talking to the guard, and he's like, first of all, he's like, he tries to reason with him, and he's like, let Perry go, please, I won't harm you. And then he points out where it's like, if I die, you might be the next governor, so, and you know that you can't cheat the system. This system is inescapable unless you let me live. But this guard originally says no. He originally stands up for Syl and his ideas, and then we get a really dark scene where it's like, okay, but I have one request. When I die, please just shoot Perry. Let her have a quick death. That's messed up. However, the governor gets sentenced, and whilst he's getting tortured, the guard basically starts shooting the machine that tortures him, freeing him, keeping him alive. And I love how it's not really made clear on whether he did this because he liked the governor, that he tried to reason with him, or is it because he feared that if the governor dies and he takes his place, he would be in a similar situation. I really like the animicity of this scene in which we don't know what his thought process was. And so all these characters then confront Syl and his guards, and Syl basically announces that he's contacted his home planet of Thoros Beta, to which they're going to have an invasion force to take over Varos and for Syl to become the supreme ruler. However, the message on board basically describes that there's not enough people, invasion terminated, and then another bit says that this material on Varos is very valuable, pay up whatever they ask for. And basically Syl, though surviving and still also keeping his job, gets defeated in a way, as the Doctor and Perry and the governor are satisfied with this, and the governor basically charges a high price for this material, and to thank the Doctor for letting him out of this rule, the Doctor basically asks for a little bit of this material so he can fix the TARDIS, and the Doctor and Perry leave, and we cut back to the two characters who've been watching these events take fold. They appear throughout the story, and they give off a wonderful, comedic, almost sarcastic style to the story, which kind of grims it as we get all this torturous and horrible stuff happening to the Doctor, Perry, and our main characters. But these characters are watching it, like us as a viewing audience, as just light entertainment, only from their universe point of view. This stuff is actually happening, which is kind of messed up. And they hear that the governor is basically cancelling all the executions and all the death to try and make a better Varos, and the screen gets turned off, and his characters are like, no more executions, no more tortures. Yes, we're free. Are we? Yes. What do we do now? I don't know. And then the credits roll, and that's Vengeance on Varos. Overall, not only is it a good story, and it's easily the best Sixth Doctor story, in my opinion, it is one of the best stories in the Sixth Doctor. It's one of the best stories in the show's history, easily in my top 10, maybe even my top 5. It's got a huge, great allegory for entertainment and politicians, and how the corruption comes from mainly the system, and it's just a great piece of television, and Philip Martin would easily prove himself as the best Sixth Doctor writer. And I don't know how to just go watch it. It's a great scene. My only real criticism with this is that one scene in the acid bath room. But apart from that, everything about this is perfect. If they just cut that scene or made it shorter or re-edited in a way so that it's not as the way that we got it, it could have been a perfect story. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. I highly recommend it. Vengeance from Varos, go watch it. So join me next time where the Doctor and Perry land in, I think it's Edwardian or Victorian, in a small mining village where they meet up with an old enemy and get introduced to a familiar face for the Doctor, as it's somebody he knows from Gallifrey. So join me next time for the Mark of the Rani, and I'll see you next time on the Doctor Who Marathon.